The private jet cut through the night sky like a ghost. No press. No security detail. No red carpet welcome. Just silence. In the rear seat, Eleanor Shaw, tech billionaire, media mogul, and the most feared woman in Silicon Valley, sat still, arms crossed, staring out the window. Her face, carved in stone, betrayed no emotion. But her eyes, they flickered like dying stars. For the first time in 15 years, Eleanor was going back to where it all started. Back to the company she had built from her garage with bloody knuckles and broken dreams. But this time, she wasn't coming to speak on stage, or to check earnings, or to intimidate board members. This time, she came alone, unannounced, and after hours. Because she needed answers. Her mother's voice haunted her, "Don't forget who you were before the world gave you a name." She needed to remember. She needed to feel something, anything, again. By the time the car dropped her off at the side entrance of the 70th-floor headquarters in San Francisco, it was nearly 2 a.m. The city was asleep. But Eleanor wasn't. Not anymore. She stepped inside the marble lobby, her heels echoing like gunshots. The reception desk was empty, the lights dimmed. The empire she built stood in silence. And that's when she saw him. A man, mid-50s, hunched over the large touchscreen table display in the central hall. He was wearing a janitor's uniform, worn and faded, and he didn't hear her come in. He wasn't cleaning. He wasn't resting. He was drawing. Using his finger, he was sketching something delicate and deliberate on the giant screen. A face. A little girl's face. Hair in pigtails. Big smile. Laugh lines. The detail was hauntingly beautiful, far too skilled for someone wiping windows at midnight. Eleanor stopped cold. Frozen. She didn't move. Didn't speak. And then, the janitor looked up. Their eyes met. And the past. Everything she had buried, everything she had forgotten, came rushing back like a tidal wave. "Miss Shaw," the man said, startled, his hand pulling away from the screen as if he'd just been caught stealing. Eleanor blinked. Her throat tightened. "Robert," she whispered. "Robert Torres?" He looked down, ashamed. "I didn't know anyone was here." "You used to work in my dad's garage," she said slowly. "Back when we were building the first prototype." Robert nodded. "That was a long time ago." She took a step closer. "Why are you here?" "I thought you left, moved to New Mexico." Robert smiled faintly, with eyes full of secrets. "Life doesn't always go the way we plan." For the next few minutes, the silence between them stretched like glass. And then, Eleanor did something she hadn't done in years. She sat down. On the cold marble floor, right there in the middle of her billion-dollar lobby. "Tell me," she said, her voice barely audible, "what happened?" And so he did. He told her how he had stayed in the company longer than she'd realized, helping early on with the tech builds, prototyping, and quality control. But as the company grew, the walls between the floors thickened. Departments turned into silos. Innovations into politics. He was pushed lower and lower until he was let go in a wave of layoffs, until Eleanor's board had unknowingly signed off on firing one of the original creators. "I didn't fight it," he said. "I figured maybe my time was up. I went home. My daughter was sick, very sick." Eleanor felt her chest tighten. "I spent the next few years in and out of hospitals. My wife left. I took every job I could. When I came back here, I didn't expect to get in again. So I applied as a janitor." She stared at him, stunned. "Why didn't you say something? Write to me?" Robert chuckled bitterly. "Would you have read it? Would the Eleanor Shaw I see on magazine covers have recognized my name? His words hit her harder than any shareholder lawsuit ever could. She looked at the drawing again. The little girl. Your daughter? She asked. He nodded. Maya. She passed away last year. But I draw her every night. On every screen I clean. Eleanor looked away, tears pushing behind her eyes. I'm so sorry, she said. Robert gave her a soft smile. Me too. In the silence that followed, the steel in her spine began to soften. Something was cracking open inside her, the part that used to believe, that used to care. I built this place, she whispered, but I don't even recognize it anymore. I don't know who I am outside of the title. Then it's time to remember, Robert said gently. That night, they talked until the sun came up. They sat on the floor of her empire and became two people again, no labels, no power, just truth. 3 days later, Eleanor cancelled her overseas tour. She started making rounds at the company, unannounced, unguarded. She walked into the break rooms, the design labs, the maintenance closets. And she listened. She called back laid-off veterans. She launched a new internal foundation to support employees and their families. And she gave Robert a new title, Creative Heritage Mentor. He wasn't cleaning floors anymore. He was teaching design workshops. Sketching again. Inspiring again. But that was only the beginning. Eleanor began organizing quiet retreats for leadership, not lavish weekends, but service-based getaways where executives volunteered in underprivileged schools, built community gardens, and heard the stories of those they often overlooked. She began publishing internal journals, letters written anonymously by employees about their real lives, struggles, families, and dreams. Each month, she printed the letters and read one out loud in the boardroom. Robert's drawing of Maya became more than just a memory. It became the logo of a new initiative called Mosaic, a company-wide movement to remember that every piece, no matter how small or unnoticed, mattered. Mosaic funded childcare, medical support, creative mentorship, and community scholarships in Maya's name. One day, a young intern approached Eleanor after a presentation. Her voice shook as she said, "Thank you. I was raised by a janitor. People never saw him. But he saw me. Thank you for seeing him." Eleanor hugged her tight. On the company's 20th anniversary, Eleanor invited Robert on stage with her. The screens lit up with Maya's portrait. Not as a symbol of loss, but of legacy. I lost sight of who I was, Eleanor said. But I found my way back. Because one night, I came home without warning, and found a father sketching his daughter on a touchscreen. I thought I built an empire. But that night, I realized, I had lost its soul. And he helped me bring it back. The crowd rose. Applause. Tears. Not just for Eleanor. For themselves. For what they now believed was possible. Because in that moment, they weren't just employees. They were seen. Heard. Remembered. Eleanor turned to Robert and whispered, she would be proud. Robert nodded, his eyes wet. And so would your mother. Moral: sometimes, the most powerful leaders are the ones who sit on the floor and listen. The janitor might be the quiet architect of a company's heart. Never forget the hands that helped you build, or the stories that gave you purpose.